Hello, my friends, and welcome to another First Chapter Fridays. Our First Chapter Friday this week is Shiloh. Chapter 1. The day Shiloh come, we're having us a big Sunday dinner. Darylyn's dipping bread is in her glass of cold tea the way she likes, and Becky pushes her beans up over the edge of her plate in a rush to get them down. Ma gives us her scolding look. Just once in my life, she said, I'd like to see a bite of food go directly from the dish into someone's mouth without a detour of any kind. She's looking at me when she says it, though. It isn't that I don't like fried rabbit. I like it just fine. I just don't want to bite down on buckshot is all. And I'm checking each piece. I looked that rabbit over good, Marty, and you won't find any buckshot in that thigh, Dad says, buttering his bread. I shot him in the neck. Somehow, I wish he hadn't said that. I pushed the meat from one side of my plate to the other, through the sweet potatoes and back again. Did it die right off? I asked, knowing that I can't eat it unless it had. Soon enough. Did you shoot its head clean off? Darylyn asked. She's like that. Dad chews real slow before he answers. Not quite, he said, and goes on eating. Which is when I leave the table. The best thing about Sundays is that we eat our big meal at noon. Once you get your belly full, you can walk all over West Virginia before you're hungry again. Any other day, you start out after dinner, you gotta come back when it's dark. I take the .22 rifle Dad had given me in March on my 11th birthday and set off up the road to see what I can shoot. Like to find me an apple hanging down on the branch and see if I can bring it down. I line up a few cans on the rail fence and shoot them off. Never shoot anything moving, though. Never had the slightest wish. We live high up on the hills above Friendly, but hardly anybody knows where that is. Friendly's near Sistersville, which is halfway between Wheeling and Parkersburg. Used to be, my daddy told me, Sistersville was one of the best places you could live in the whole state. You ask me the best place to live, I'd say right where we are. A little 4-room house with hills on 3 sides. Afternoon is the second best time to go up the hills, though. Morning's the best, especially in the summer. Early morning. On one morning, I saw 3 kinds of animals, not counting cats, dogs, frogs, cows, and horses. I saw a groundhog, saw a doe with 2 fawns, saw a gray fox with a reddish head. Bet his daddy was a gray fox and his mom was a red one. My favorite place to walk is just across this old Radley Bridge, where the road curves by the old Shiloh schoolhouse and follows the river. River one side, trees the other, sometimes a house or 2. And this particular afternoon, I'm about halfway up the road along the river when I see something out of the corner of my eye. Something moves. I look, and about 15 yards off, there's this short-haired dog, white with brown and black spots, not making any kind of noise, just slinking around with his head down, watching me, tail between his legs like he's hardly got the right to breathe. A beagle, maybe a year or 2 old. I stop, and the dog stops. Looks like he's been caught doing something awful, when I can tell all he really wants to do is follow along beside me. Here, boy, I say, slapping my thigh. Dog goes down on his stomach, groveling in the grass. I laugh and start over towards him. He's got an old worn-out collar on, probably older than he is. I bet it belonged to another dog before him. Come on, boy, I say, putting out my hand. The dog gets up and backs off. He don't even whimper, like he's lost his bark. Something really hurts inside when you see a dog cringe like that. You know somebody's been kicking at him, beating on him maybe. It's okay, boy, I say, coming a little closer, but he still backs off. So I just take my gun and follow the river. Every so often I look over my shoulder and there he is, the beagle. I stop, he stops. I can see his ribs, not real bad, but he isn't plumped up or anything. There's a broken branch hanging from a limb out over the water, and I'm wondering if I can bring it down with one shot. I raise my gun, and then I think of how the sound might scare the dog off. I decide that I don't want to shoot my gun much that day. It's a slow river. You walk beside it, and you figure it's not even moving. If you stop, though, you can see the leaves and things going along. Now and then a fish jumps, big fish, bass, I think. The dog's still trailing me, tail tucked in. Funny how he don't make a sound. Finally, I sit on a log, put my gun at my feet, and wait. Back down the road, the dog sits too. Sits right in the middle of it, head on his paws. Here, boy, I say again, pat my knee. He wiggles just a little, but he don't come. Maybe it's a she-dog. Here, girl, I say. Dog still don't come. I decide to wait the dog out, but after 3 or 4 minutes on the log, it gets boring and I start off again. So does the beagle. Don't know where you'd end up if you followed the river all the way. Heard somebody say it curves around and come back on itself, but if it didn't, I gotta get home after dark. I get a good whopping. So I always go as far as the ford where the river spills across the path, and then I head back. When I turn around, the dog sees me coming. He goes off into the woods. I figure that's the last I'll see of the beagle, and I get halfway down the road again before I look back. And there he is. I stop, he stops. I go, he goes. And then, hardly thinking on it, I whistle. It's like pressing a magic button. The beagle comes barreling towards me, legs going lickety-split, long ears flopping, tail sticking up like a flagpole. This time, when I put my hand down, he licks all my fingers and jumps right up against my leg, making little yelps in his throat. He can't get enough of me, like I've been saying no all along, and now I'd said yes, and he should come. It is a he-dog, just like I thought. Hey, boy, you're really something now, ain't you? I'm laughing as the beagle makes circles around me, and I squat down, and the dog licks my face and neck. Where'd he learn to come if you whistled and hang back if you didn't? I'm so busy watching the dog that I don't even notice it's starting to rain. Don't bother me. Don't bother the dog, neither. I'm looking for the place where I first saw him. Does he live here, I wonder? Or the house up the road? Each place we pass, I figure he'll stop. Somebody come out and whistle, maybe. But nobody comes out, and the dog don't stop. Keeps coming even after we get to the old Shiloh schoolhouse. Even starts across the bridge, tail going like a propeller. He licks my hand every so often to make sure that I'm still there, mouth open like he's smiling. He is smiling. Once he follows me across the bridge, though, and past the gristmill, I start to worry. Looks like he's fixing to follow me all the way to our house. I'm in trouble enough coming home with my clothes wet. If Ma's mama died of pneumonia, and we won't ever get the chance to forget it. And now I got a dog with me, and we're never allowed to have pets. If you can't afford to feed them and take them to the vet when they're sick, you got no right taking them in, says Ma, which is true enough. I don't say a word to the beagle the rest of the way home, hoping they'll turn around at some point and go back. The dog keeps coming. I get to the front stoop and say, "Go home, boy." And then I feel my heart squeeze up the way he stops smiling, sticks his tail between his legs again, and slinks off. He goes as far as the sycamore tree, lies down in the wet grass, his head on his paws. "Whose dog is that?" Ma asks when I come in. I shrug. "Just follows me, is all." Where to pick up with you?" Dad asks. "Up in Shiloh, across the bridge," I say. "Down on the road by the river? Bet that's Judge Travers' beagle," says Dad. "He got himself another hunting dog a few weeks back." "Jug got himself a hunting dog. How come he don't treat him right?" I ask. "How do you know he don't?" "The way the dog acts, scared to pee almost," I say. Ma gives me a look. "Don't seem to me he's got any marks on him," Dad says, studying him from our window. Don't have to have a mark on the dog to hurt him, I'm thinking. "Just don't pay him any attention, he'll go away," Dad says. "Get out of those wet clothes," Ma tells me. "You want to follow your Grandma Slater to the grave?" I change clothes, then sit down and turn on the TV, which only has 2 channels. On Sunday afternoon, it's preaching and baseball. I watch baseball for an hour. Then I get up and sneak to the window. Ma knows what I'm about. "That Shiloh dog still out there?" she asks. I nod. He's looking at me. He sees me there at the window, and his tail starts to thump. I name him Shiloh. 11-year-old Marty Preston loves to spend time up in the hills behind his home near Friendly, West Virginia. Sometimes he takes his .22 rifle to see what he can shoot, and other times, like some cans lined up on the rail fence. Other times he goes up early in the morning to sit and watch the fox and deer. But one summer Sunday, Marty comes across something different in the road, just past the old Shiloh schoolhouse, a young beagle, and the trouble begins. What do you do when a dog you suspect is being mistreated runs away and comes to you, when it's someone else's dog? When the man who owns him probably has a gun. This is Marty's problem, and he finds it as one that he has to face alone. When his solution gets too big for him to handle, things become more frightening still. Marty puts his courage on the line and discovers in the process that it's not always easy to separate right from wrong. Sometimes, however, you do almost anything to save a dog. See you next time.